New York apartment landlords getting burned in gentrification crash. Oh my God, it's so sad. This is on Bloomberg. Oh my goodness. The landlords are getting burned in the gentrification crash. Maybe if you hadn't had ill intentions of gentrifying us out of our neighborhoods in the first place, you wouldn't be dealing with this. But I shed no tears for you. New York City apartment landlords getting burned in gentrification crash. New York's apartment investors are suddenly waist deep in distress. Honey, pip down. By December, they were behind on $395 million of debt backed by mortgage bonds, almost 150 times the level of the year earlier, according to TREP data on commercial mortgage-backed securities. Tenants in rent-stabilized units owe at least $1 billion in rent, and wealthier ones are fleeing the city, leaving behind vacancies and pushing newly built luxury towers into foreclosure. Oh, my goodness. For years, as crime dwindled and the rent climbed in New York, investors gobbled up the apartment buildings, but with the city's economy and culture crushed by you-know-what, mounting job losses have derailed the gentrification boom and put the financial pressure on the landlords. Oh, really? The people who specialize in mortgage workouts are the busiest people in New York real estate, said Barry Bursch, a clinical associate professor in real estate in New York University. The developers who are in the most trouble pushed hard into Harlem and Brooklyn hipster hubs of Crown Heights, Flatbush, and Bushwick, squeezing out working class residents by building new expensive units. Oh my goodness. Now they're grappling with eviction bans and new tenant protections as rent falls across New York. Colony 1209, a steel gray apartment building, opened 6 years ago in the heart of Bushwick, an industrial version of an urban chic with a billiards room and a 24-hour doorman. The website pitched one bedrooms for $2,500, to like-minded settlers in the mostly Black and Hispanic neighborhood, which it called Brooklyn's New Frontier. It sounds a lot like the same thing that Christopher Columbus was saying, a new frontier, but people are already there. They're already living there. They already got leases and everything. They own houses, all this stuff. We're already here. How can it be a new frontier? We're already here. It's not new. You're just snatching it. New Colony, renamed DeKalb 1209, faces foreclosure after owner Spruce Capital Partners defaulted on a $46 million mortgage. The 5-year interest-only loan matured in October and was not extended, triggering the default, according to the monthly filings by the loan servicer Wells Fargo and Company. The lender is filing to repossess the building as soon as New York's foreclosure moratorium expires, while simultaneously discussing workout alternatives with the borrower. Spruce could not be reached for comment. Right before COVID hit, investors were willing to pay top dollar for luxury buildings like Colony. They wanted alternatives to rent-regulated buildings, which saw values crimped by a 2019 law that banned tactics landlords depended on to convert rent-stabilized units to market rate, which means kick out people who were already living there under the current law of rent stabilization. That's why they moved there in the first place. Kicking them out so we can get market value. That's what that means, right? Okay. That was the bright spot until the pandemic happened. Okay, so blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go skip down in the article. In some ways, investors may be better insulated than after the 2008 financial crisis. Really? Lenders generally require bigger down payments and underwrote loans based on current rents rather than expectations for the future, said Simon Shukri, Ariel's president. If the vaccine works and college students and office workers start to return, so will the market, said Shukri. I don't think there will be as much distress as you think. The trouble will filter from highly leveraged investors who expanded quickly to lenders with the most aggressive underwriting, says NYU's Hirsch. There will be banks that go under.
Racial dislocation. I mean, that is constant all over the world. I mean, ask the people along the Cherokee Trail many years ago, the Indians who were moved out of Alabama and then Georgia and Florida and places like that, what they call the so-called 5 civilized tribes, across the Trail of Tears in what they call Oklahoma Territory at that time, that was considered wasteland until later on they discovered oil, and then here they came again, okay? And they had what they call the run, I mean, where they gave land to white people. I mean, free. They said it was free land, but it was supposed to be Indian land. The term Oklahoma itself means land of the red people, okay? Because they gave that to them because they thought that it was worthless after they had moved them out of Alabama, Georgia, Florida, etc., over what they call the Trail of Tears. They call it the Trail of Tears because so many people died along moving from that one place to another. In other words, keep them engines, keep them redskins moving. Don't let them get settled. Don't let them set up any kind of place where they're going to be permanent and whatnot, because when people are permanent, they get ideas about growing and how to improve their circumstances. And it's the same way now, all over the world, not just in this area of the world. I mean, you still have your Sowetos and places like that in so-called South Africa and places. And then all over Africa, you see photos of black people, females with their babies in their arms, straggling across desert territory on account of what you call wars and famines and all like that. Well, anytime the shooting starts and all like that, the AK-47s that the white supremacists bring in, and people start slaughtering and whatnot, people are paid to kill other people, one tribe against another, and keep them moving and keep millions of people on the move. And they starve while they're on the move. I mean, they run out of water. They run out of everything because you just can't keep going across what you call, quote-unquote, no man's land with nothing but just what you have on your back or what you can carry on a donkey or in your hand or something like that, or on a small cart. And you run out of supplies and you become beggars. Then you become thieves. And that's what they want. That's what they want from black people when they force you out of your house and you have to move a great distance. Now you can't get to your job, so you lose your job on account of when it starts snowing. Now you're cut off. And they say, you're not coming to work. And, hey, old buddy, I mean, I'm trying to help you out, but I mean, I just can't, keep looking for you and you're not coming in. And just because you live a great distance, I don't have anything to do with that. So I'm going to have to let you go. And so now you're just out there and you become, your offspring and whatnot coming up. They don't have this, they don't have that. So they start looking around for something to break into. And then now you've built up all of this, finally got a place halfway paid for, but they cut off your transportation. Mm-hmm. All right? They said, oh, well, we're going to reroute these buses now. Well, you say, well, I was dependent on the bus route to come right by my house and take me to work. Say, well, you got to get a car now. In fact, you got to get 3 cars because everybody in the house has got to work to pay for that house. So now you can't keep up with your car payments and all like that. They got it very well scientifically figured out. I mean, right down almost to the penny. They know what we're going to be doing 15 years from now, 30 years from now. That's how the white supremacists plan the future of their victims, the non-white people of this planet.
Primary care doctors are left out of the vaccine rollout, okay? Primary care doctors have grown increasingly frustrated with their exclusion from the nation's vaccine rollout, unable to find reliable supplies for even their eldest patients and lacking basic information and distributing planning for the shots. Long story short, the doctors are like, we need to make our money. We've been supporting the drug companies and we've been the ones pumping the vaccines for the longest time. We need our piece of the pie. Why are you sending these people to all of these other facilities? Because I done read you articles and I done showed you articles where they're gonna turn Barclays into a vaccine facility. They're gonna turn the Brooklyn Navy Yard into a vaccine facility. They do all of these into vaccine facilities. You know what I'm saying? Where they're just gonna give these people, they turn the churches into vaccine facilities. They're just gonna give this vaccine everywhere. And the doctors are like, wait, hold on. That's our job. Why are you taking our money and putting it somewhere else and leaving us out of the equation? Okay, let's keep reading. The centerpiece should be primary care, said David Wayne Altman, the chairman of the Family Medicine at Tufts University School of Medicine, who also sees patients in Arlington, Mass. State officials there are using Fenway Park and Gillette Stadium as mass vaccination sites rather than ensuring practices like his can inoculate patients at high risk from you know what. Okay. If you distribute the vaccine to all these practices and let them go out at their pace, it would accelerate the rollout dramatically. Okay? Give us our money. We can help you poison everybody. There are roughly 500,000 primary care doctors in the United States who have traditionally administered nearly half of all adult vaccinations, inoculating their patients against pneumonia, flu, and other infectious diseases. While most physician offices can't handle storage for the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine because its need for special freezers, doctors say that they could easily administer the Moderna vaccine with adequate storage measures, as well as some of the others likely to become available soon. Okay. I'm going to just read this last it's not the last, but the last one for me, the last sentence, and then I'm done with this, okay? We vaccinate every single year millions of Americans for influenza, Dr. Pordue said, adding, it's a shame we haven't been given a seat at the table. It's a shame they haven't been given a seat at the table. When you sit down at the table, what do you normally do? You eat at the table. So he's saying that everybody else is given a chance to eat off this vaccine. We have been giving out vaccines for years. Give us a chance to eat off the vaccine. These New Yorkers are signing their neighbors up for the vaccine. Oh, yes. So I'm just going to read this little snippet. Brenda Edwards stood beside Thomas Ramos. It's an interesting name, Mr. Ramos. As she knocked on her neighbor's door, I'm so happy you're here, Victoria Eparusta Santo. That's a hell of a name there. As they signed her up for a COVID vaccine. Last week, I spent time with Elwell 77 and she helped sign her up and her neighbors as well. And this is the last one. I thought this was really interesting. Looked like somebody was really trying to tell the truth about de Blasio, but let's go into it. It's really interesting. De Blasio wants to tax the rich in New York, but can't say who they are. We already read other articles that said that they gone. They have left New York City. They are gone. Okay? But he wants to tax the rich. So who's that? All right, let's read. Mayor de Blasio said he wants to tax the rich. He just isn't sure what that means. It's not surprising that he's unsure of anything. Hisner, who has called for boosting taxes on the rich for years, couldn't provide specifics when pressed Thursday about what income levels would trigger the new levies he'd impose on the New York's wealthiest if he could. If he could. What I think is for millionaires and billionaires, there should be higher taxes, particularly in billionaires, said de Blasio testified at a virtual joint legislative budget hearing on a local government while questioning from State Senate Jim Gargaran. Gargaran quizzed de Blasio, asking one of the questions I have for you in terms of who you are looking to the suggestion that we raise taxes on the wealthy. Could you further define that? Who do you define as wealthy and what tax rate should we raise if it was up to you? Couple of straightforward points. I think billionaires in particular is where I put a lot of emphasis, de Blasio said. Gugaran then interjected, you said billionaires. A billionaire, somebody who has $1 billion or someone who makes $1 billion? Or are you looking at a certain, what would the annual figure be? What would you look at that you think somebody should make? What figure would that be? De Blasio replied, Senator, I want to be straightforward. When I can give you a very specific answer, I will. So you got very specific plans on creating this bike lane on the bridges for a bike that can only really be used 9 months out the year. Maybe 10. Okay. So You got specifics on that, but you don't have specifics on this. Okay. All right. Well, that's the end of my articles.